So can you hear me now,
Yeah,
sir?
yeah, yeah. Now it is clear. Go ahead. Now it is clear.
Sure. Like to complete my report in 20 minutes of constraint, I've taken just a few topics: reading of construction drawings, uh, bill of quantities, calculation of materials, construction management, construction finishes. In that, I'll be concentrating on masonry, plastering, flooring, then conclusion. So reading of drawings, it is basically a two-dimensional architectural drawing or any engineering drawing that explains the details of a project. They provide a unique visual representation of what exactly needs to be built. Information such as dimensions, path, placement, and materials for each project can all be found in construction drawings to assure the project is completed correctly. So they provide construction workers with other important information for the project, including building codes, installation techniques, measurements, and quality standards. It involves basic skills of visualization and interpretation, where you can read and understand various elements in the drawing, such as symbols, dimensions, and lines. Construction drawings, it includes title block, revision block, notes, drawing scale, abbreviations, graphic symbols, and the legend. Schedule of drawings. It's a list of drawings required to complete a project, and it is very important to look for the good for construction seal before starting any project, as it gives assurance that the drawing is up to the mark, or it is mostly present at the middle bottom of the drawing sheet. The first title block. It is The title block is mostly found at the bottom right side of the drawing sheet. The placement of the title block can vary, even its shape, size can vary. It contains important information about the project as well as the company, typically a professional design firm that created it, and copyright information, the blueprint's name, plan number, creation date, revision date, scale of the drawing, sheet number, address, as well as the location, site, or vendor, and even the approval dates and signatures. Next is revision block. Any like any time there is any change to a building system or the component, the drawing must be redrafted. Those changes are listed in the revision block, usually with the date it was revised and the approval signed. Here is the picture of the revision block. Then notes. In notes, there are basically two types of notes: keynotes and general notes. In keynotes, the notes will reveal any specifications, details, or information the designer thinks may help you understand the drawing, or details or information that cannot be conveyed through the drawings. Some notes may even include information like when to start the project, like do not begin the work until 7 a.m. So such information might also be contained. And general notes, it eliminates the use of lengthy written explanations. It is basically a note that provides technical information that will apply to the entire drawing, apply equally to all disciplines and to all sheets within the drawing set. So it actually contains information on, an example, reinforcing steel structure or concrete mixtures, form work, curing time, and other work procedures. Here's the diagram of, here's one pic of general notes which are shown. Then drawing scale. Drawing scale. In construction drawings, usually, no, that is, construction drawings are scaled down representations of final project to a particular ratio. So, the drawing scale is very important to any construction drawing. When construction plans are scaled, it will help us put the part into a print size drawing that is easily readable by any member of the crew. So the choice of the drawing scale, it will depend on two things mainly. One is the size of the object to be drawn, and the other is the amount of detail that needs to be shown. Then the next is legend. The legend is used to define the symbols that are used in the construction plans, that is the blueprint. Often they are composed of industry specific symbols. The important thing is that that you understand the meaning of the symbols regarding the plan you are reviewing. So mostly it is present in a easily readable form. So any builder in the field can easily understand it. Some companies might also have their own symbols for certain items, so that it will be known by the every builder should know to read the legend prior to starting any work in building. Next is dimensioning. Dimensioning, it includes numerals, dimension lines, extension lines, and arrowheads. Numerals are there to indicate the values, while dimension lines are lines to show from where to where the respective numeral value is. An extension line are provided to support the dimension lines. uh, and arrowheads, they mark the exact beginning and ending of any dimension line. So the main aim is, while reading the interior or exterior of any building or any construction, we should be able to locate different objects in it and know its size. Next is graphic symbols. Pictorial, it is a pictorial representation of important details in order to reduce the drawing time. So it's a tidy method of identifying different items, items placement, its type and use. The below are the architectural symbols that are mostly used, like service symbols, lighting symbols, electrical symbols, and plan and elevation section symbols. Um, Service symbols, they represent the mechanics of a building and help to identify such elements such as mechanical ventilation, soil pipes, and incoming power. While lighting symbols, they provide a simple and clear meaning of identifying positions, types, and amount and power output without the need to literate drawing with labels. Electrical symbols, they show the location and type of power switches and outputs, while the plan and elevation section symbols, they are related to floor levels and section lines, and aid in readability of a construction drawing. Um, Next topic is bill of quantities. It is also referred to as
Vidya,
BOQ
one
in
minute.
short form.
Vidya,
Yes,
Vidya,
sir.
1 minute. 1 minute.
Yes, sir.
You have completed that drawings. This one, no,
Yes, sir.
presentation. In that, you can add what are the drawings used normally below the ground level and above the ground level. What are the drawings to be
Yes, sir.
compared? I already explained. That is
Yes, sir.
missing. You
Footing
add it.
drawing. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you add it below ground
Yes,
level.
sir.
One this one you set of drawings is required. Above the ground level, one set of drawings is required. What are all the drawings to be studied and compared below ground level and above ground level? That you add it up. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, so bill of quantities. So it is also referred to as BOQ in short form. It is a document formulator in the construction industry to specify materials, labors, and their costs. It serves as a communication tool between the client, the consultant, and the contractor. It is usually prepared by a cost consultant or a quantity surveyor or any civil engineer who has the expertise at estimating the materials required for a project. For the preparation of BOQ, five main components are to be considered, which is item description, unit, quantity, rate per unit, and total amount. So, the process of preparation of a BOQ, taking of quantities, first step, where it is the process of analyzing the drawing and its specifications to identify the elements required for the preparation of BOQ. Then description. In this step, the appropriate narrative of a particular work is provided to explain and we justify the work that is being done. Then working up, which is also known as drafting your bill of quantities. So in that, the first step is setting up a spreadsheet for your bill of quantities, where which includes the columns for columns for item numbers, description, unit of measurement, quantity, rate for items, labor, total cost for any item. So your item number will be in consecutive order, starting from one, and then we categorize in that manner. Then the next step is preparing a list of materials you need to complete the project, where we look at the architect's plan. And write a basic list of all the building materials required and the amount needed of each material. This includes wiring, hardware, and other fixtures too. Um, Then breaking down the project into specific sections or categories, since different parts of a project will likely be handled by different contractors or subcontractors, we split up the list of materials into those sections. That way, each contractor or subcontractor will know exactly what their cost will be for the project. Then the next step is estimating the labor required to complete each part. Based on the amount of work to be done, we determine the number of man hours it will take to finish. This should be a conservative estimate since some workers are more efficient than others. Um, then the fifth step is making an initial cost estimate based on the architect's design. Uh, we look at the average prices for the materials and labor in our area. Then we can find out the material prices by checking hardware stores. To learn labor prices, we need to talk to contractors in our area who work for similar projects. Then the final step is draft a schedule based on the estimates in BOQ. So once you have labor estimates, so it is possible to determine like how long it will take to complete our project. So we keep this schedule to lose to account for things such as weather and any delays. So this is an example of BOQ that I've attached in the PPT. Then calculation of materials. In this, I'll be taking plastering as an example. So before going to the calculation, we need to know like for one cement bag, it's usually 50 kg or 0.035 cubic meter. And then when dry mortar is like converted to wet mortar, the volume when dry mortar is converted to wet mortar, the volume reduces by 30%. So a dry mortar formula is wet mortar into zero point 0.3 plus the wet mortar quantity. For example, if you take inside plastering, the ratio for cement mortar is 1:6, and the thickness is 15 millimeter. So for cement calculation, for a 1 meter into 1 meter wall, the volume of wet mortar will be 1 into 1 into 0.015, which is the thickness of the wall, which will give you 0.015 meter cube. Then volume of dry mortar, which is as per the formula that I said here, it is 0.015 into zero point 0.3 or 30 by 100 plus the wet mortar value 0.015, which will give you 0.0195 cubic meter. Then volume of cement that is required will be 0.0195 by 7. Here the 7 is nothing but the ratio 1:6 ratio. So 1 plus 6 is 7. We are taking by 7 as the cement part in the ratio is 1. So one part, which is one part. So 1 divided by 1 plus 6, which is 1 by 7. So we multiply it with 0.0195 and we get 0.0028 cubic meter. Then the number of bags that are required for cement is one cement bag, as I said, is 0.035 cubic meter. So we divide this 0.0028 by 0.035, which will give us the number of bags, that is 0.084 bags. As the bags is not in like whole numbers, we calculate in kgs, which is more easier for us to know. The volume of cement in kg is 0.084 into 50, as one cement bag is 50 kg, which will give us 4.22 kg. The same steps are followed for calculating ceiling plastering and then outside plastering. Only the ratio and the thickness will vary. According to that, we should calculate the amount of cement required for plastering. Next is construction management. So construction management is a professional service that uses specialized specialized project management techniques to oversee the planning, design, and construction of a project from its beginning to its end. The purpose of construction management is to control a project's time, delivery, cost, and quality. CPM, which is a short form, um, is Director directed at meeting a client's requirements in order to produce a functionality and economically viable project. So, scope of construction management. The main purpose of construction management is to control project time, cost, quality. Construction management is compatible with all project delivery systems to serve the client's best interest first, and also is an owner's representatives, then to reduce overall project costs, contract negotiation, reduce change orders reduction in time, and elimination of unnecessary scope and cost, then advising the team for best results, to enhance quality control, to reduce the potential for defects and poor workmanship, then to provide realistic and reliable budgets and protecting the owner from unnecessary liability, and to optimize and accelerate the design and construction schedule, provide cost effective document controls, then to protect the owner from unnecessary liability, and provide management expertise and applying resources wherever needed. Next topic is construction finishes. Uh, The first one is masonry. Masonry wall. It is the most durable part of any building or structure. Its durability and strength depends on type and quality of materials used and the workmanship provided. It also helps to control indoor and outdoor temperature variations, and basically it separates a building from the outside world. That is its main purpose. Then it is made up of stones, marbles, granites, concrete, blocks, tiles, and based on the type of and the binding materials that are used for joining these blocks, stones are cement, mortar, lime, and soil. Sir.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Based on the type of individual units that are used for building the masonry walls and the functions, it can be classified into brick masonry, block masonry, solid block masonry, lightweight fly ash brick masonry, composite masonry walls, ashlar fine masonry walls, and granite masonry walls. First, brick masonry. In brick masonry, there are four types of bonding: stretcher bond, header bond, English bond, and Flemish bond. So, stretcher bond, in this, all bricks are laid as stretchers. So, in the picture that is shown, we know the longer face is the stretcher, and adjacent to it is the header. So in stretcher bonding, all the bricks are laid as stretchers, that is lengthwise. That is, if the brick size is like 190 into 90 into 90, for example, which is not used nowadays. So like if it's 180 into 90 into 90, then the 190 into 90 face is your stretcher. This is mostly used in half brick thick walls, or partition walls. Cash should be taken to break all the vertical joints. So half bricks or brick bats are used at the start of the next row to cut all the vertical joints. Next, header bond. In this type of bonding, bricks are laid as headers. As I said, if 190 into 90 is taken as the brick size, then the 19 to 90 is the header part, which is used for curved surfaces and well linings, or well foundations. Even here, the catch should be taken to break all the vertical joints. Instead of half bricks, here we use 3 by 4 bricks or brick bats. The next bonding is Flemish bond. In Flemish bond, each course comprises of headers and stretchers alternatively arranged. In this, to break the verticality of joints, either queen closures are used, or if the course starts with header, then queen closures are used, or we can also use 3 by 4 closure if queen closure is not like available at the time. Then every header is centrally supported by a stretcher below it. Then the types of Flemish bonds are double Flemish bond and single Flemish bond. In double Flemish bond, both faces of the walls have the Flemish look, whereas the single Flemish bond, only the outer face of the wall has this Flemish look. This is the difference between double Flemish bond and single Flemish bond. Then going on to the next bond, English bond. It is considered to be the strongest bond where alternate courses of headers and stretchers are used. Even here, to break the continuity of the vertical joints, we use queen closures. That is like bricks cut lengthwise into two halves. Then it is used in the beginning and end of the wall after the first header is done. Then it is used for walls of all thickness. Blockwork masonry. In blockwork masonry, I'll deal with the start of blockwork masonry, where we establish wall lines to attain proper layout of blockwork masonry. Then markings are made to establish wall lines, and these markings are maintained till the first floor is fully laid. Then proper tools are used for scrubbing and cleaning the concrete surface before starting any block work. Then hacking of concrete surface is done where new block work is to be done. Then we check reference points before starting any block work such as damp proof course, benchmark, lintel level, cross beam level, then more. To know when to terminate the topmost block course, then a block must be dry or semi-dry in case of damp blocks, the water on the block makes the mortar watery, which will lead to weak masonry, and proper measurement of ingredients is done, and mixing platform is kept clean before the commencement of mixing as per the IAS code 2250. The mixed mortar of ratio 1 is to 4 is to be consumed in the next 2 hours itself. Wet cement should not be mixed to get mortar. Add water to dry mix of cement and sand to get the mortar. RCC mullions are provided as per the drawings. Then block laying, alignment and jointing, where one block at a time should be laid by gently pressing it in the mortar bed. At first, one row is totally worked with dry bond to establish the spacing between the blocks. The line threads are used from one end to other with line pins to place blocks in straight lines. Excess mortar coming out from the joints and edges to be taken by trowel and buttered to the cross directional joints or head joint surface of the next block being laid. The top level is checked by using straight edge or spirit levels on the top of the blocks laid. The above process is repeated for building more courses, and we check the verticality and level by using plumb bob and level tubes after every two course of block work is laid. Next is plastering. So the different types of plasterings are lime plaster, cement plaster, mud plaster, then stucco plaster. So the first is lime plaster, where when lime is used as a binding material, it is called lime plaster. Lime plaster is a type of plaster composed of hydrated lime, sand, and water. Lime plaster is similar to the lime mortar, where the main difference is based on the use rather than the composition. Mortar for lime plaster is usually prepared by mixing sand and lime in equal proportions to improve the strength by small quantity of cement is added to it, where small quantity of cement is added to it. Then cement plaster. When cement is used as a binding material, it is called cement plaster. It is specially suited for damp conditions. Cement plaster is usually applied in one coat. The thickness of coat can be from 12 to 15 millimeter or 20 millimeter depending upon the site conditions and the type of building. 6 millimeter thickness of plastering of 1 is to 3 or 1 is to 4 ratio is recommended for cement plastering of RCC surfaces. Then mud plaster. The surface to be prepared exactly in the same manner as that for the lime plaster or the cement plaster. Mud plaster is generally applied in two coats. The first coat being 18 millimeter thick, while the thickness of second coat being 6 millimeter. Next is stucco plaster. Stucco is the name given to decorative type of any plaster which gives an excellent finish. So stucco plaster can be used for interior as well as exterior surfaces. It is usually laid in three coats, making the total thickness of plaster about 25 millimeter. So the first coat is called as scratch coat. The second coat is called fine coat. It is also known as brown coat, and the third coat is called as white coat or the finishing coat. So types of finishing, there are five main types of finishing: smooth cast, pebble dash, rough cast, texture finish, and scrap finish. So smooth cast, it is a finish which presents leveled and smooth surface. The motive of finish is made by mixing of cement and fine sand in the ratio of 1 is to 3. The picture next to it shows what a smooth cast. Next is pebble dash. So it is a finish in which small pebbles or crushed stones of suitable size are thrown onto a freshly applied finish coat of plaster and it is left exposed to dry. The mortar finish is made by cement and coarse aggregate of 1 is to 3 ratio. The third type is rough cast. It is a finish in which the mortar for the final coat contains a proportion of fairly big size coarse aggregates, and the mortar for finishing is made by mixing cement, fine sand, and coarse aggregate in the ratio of 1 is to 1 by 1 is to 1 or 2 is to 3. uh, Textured finish. In this finish, it will contain ornamental patterns or textured surface which are produced by working with various tools in the freshly applied final coat. Next is flooring. So the steps followed for tile laying. Um, Wire brush is used and the dead mortar is cleared at first. Then we install the underlayment if it is necessary. Then the smooth side of trowel is then used to spread the adhesive. Cement mortar of 1 is to 6 is used for bed mortar. We should make sure that it covers the area evenly without hiding your reference lines. Uh, Cement slurry made up of only cement and water of 4 kg per square meter is used as slurry over the cement mortar area. By scratching and overlapping, air packets can be removed. Half 1 minute, sir.
Yeah.
By scratching and overlapping, air packets are removed. Half an hour of soaking of tiles in water before laying is required. Sir, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Place a tile and lightly press to make sure the adhesive sticks. Don't push it so hard that the adhesive is forced out from the under the tile. Then tapping is to be done using rammers. Once a row is finished, level the tiles with a rubber mallet or level. Finishing touches are done at the end. So, types of flooring, timber flooring, the first one. Given that each piece is like different, the unique aesthetic of timber is one of the main appeals for its use as flooring. It can also be very durable, although it may scratch and is prone to movement. As timber is hygroscopic, which is sponge-like, it can be unsuitable for use in rooms that may be exposed to humidity or moisture. Although treatment of timber can make it more resistant to moisture. Then bamboo flooring. This bamboo is like it's a dry grass, so it has been compressed into a floor material to be used as bamboo flooring and is nailed down or glued together. It has the advantage of being a renewable resource and water resistant. Due to its insufficient hardness compared with wood, it is more prone to being dented and scratched. Next is laminate flooring. In laminate flooring is a compressed fiberboard plant covered with an image of a material such as timber, stone, or tiles. It's just that image, and so on that. This is given as a protective coating. Uh, uh, then laminates can be suitable for rooms that wish to benefit from the aesthetic of a natural floor at low cost with easier installation and without the risk of being damaged by scratching. So the good quality laminates are durable and may have a 20-year warranty. They require minimum maintenance and may be installed with underfloor heating. Next is carpet flooring. So carpet is made of an upper layer of pile attached to a backing. The pile is usually wool or fibers such as nylon, polyester, or polypropylene that are heat treated after having been twisted together into tufts or woven. There are many varieties of texture, style, and color available, and generally, carpet is both durable and easy to maintain. Then, carpet also has insulating properties in terms of both heat and sound, but it can stain quite easily and can be damaged by water and dampness. Next. is vinyl flooring. So vinyl flooring can be supplied in rolls or tiles and is generally fixed by gluing it. It can be manufactured in a very wide range of colors and profiles. For example, studded vinyl flooring. So, and as with laminate flooring can stimulate, if it's combined with laminate flooring, it can simulate the appearance of other materials as well. So the advantages of vinyl flooring is it is durable and it is easy to maintain and kept clean. Then it is capable of getting wet without buckling, which makes it suitable for using it in bathrooms, kitchens, and so on. Then it is easy to install and it can be relatively inexpensive compared to other types of flooring. Then the last one is cork flooring. Cork is a water resistive renewable material which is suitable for a wide range of spaces, including the basement and bathroom installations. So cork can be clicked together in the same way as the laminates, or it can also be glued. So cork floors are warm and flexible, although they can be damaged easily by sharp objects. Um, Coming on to the conclusion, so like this internship, it acts as a bridge between students and industry, bridging the gap between academic learning and industrial requirements. Prayojna Construction Training Institute, it gave us the opportunity to gain knowledge about practical aspects to start a career. So it was a nice experience, and I'm very thankful to Natarajan sir, Suresh sir, Deepa ma'am, and Sweta ma'am for giving me this wonderful opportunity to learn a lot of practical aspects in civil engineering. Thank you, sir.
Vidya,
Sir?
Vidya, first thing is the drawing. Then this I've told you add it in that. And
Yes, sir.
a second small mistake what you have done is during explaining in the plaster, you have,
Yes, sir.
you have written coarse aggregate. It should be changed to fine aggregate. Okay, two or three places you have mentioned coarse aggregate. It should be changed to fine aggregate while
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
in the plastering. Okay.
Yes,
And
sir.
one question I wanted to ask you whether any of your relative is a civil engineer?
No, sir.
No. Then
None
it
of
is
them.
very fantastic. Fantastic. This one you have made. Yeah, you have made your own combination of explanation which has been given by the experts and a combination of you have taken a lot of things from the Google also. It is
Yes,
very
sir.
clear. It is a combination. It has been worked out very fantastic. Uh,
Thank you,
very,
sir.
very good presentation. I will recommend Madam to take it as a very good sample to show it to the other students.
Thank you, sir.
Very good and keep it up.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you. So others who are viewing this, you can have a take it as an example. Do it. Do the presentations with the combination of Google and our experts' explanations. This type of what you call the presentations gives you your profile plus mark when you go to a you are presenting it to someone else in your college itself. It will give you a huge difference. Okay. So with this, I will